I'm not centered at all, but that's because I'm trying to not show the apartment. I'm currently in an Airbnb in Toronto. I've moved, so I'm kind of late with a lot of video ideas that I had. You know, the typical new year, new lists of books that you want to read and all the new goals. So I'll definitely be making those videos, hopefully. I definitely want to, also just to serve as a reminder for myself. But yeah, today I want to go over one of said lists. It's very common in the booktube community, and that is the top 23 books of 2023. So last year I kind of went in a different direction and went with the 22 5-star predictions for 2022. This year the books I selected aren't necessarily 5-star predictions, although I think most of them kind of are in a way, which makes sense because when you're choosing the top 23 books, it's because you're looking forward to reading them. So anyway, last year I also focused on books that I own physically, but this year, considering I'm not home and I don't have access to my physical books, I actually went with a lot of books that I just have been looking forward to reading but don't necessarily own. Some of these books I have been wanting to read for like a few years now, and I still haven't, which is why I actually picked them. Also, something that I wanted to do this year that I haven't done before was to actually just sit and think without looking up any books, think about books that I want to read. And I can't remember who was mentioning this, but I remember someone mentioning doing something like that and them saying how that's how they know they really want to read a book, because they remember the title. And I thought that was a great idea because I feel like in the past I always just kind of went through like some lists that I had or something like that, where like on Goodreads or whatever, and I feel like I ended up choosing a lot of random books that I was like, oh yeah, I might like that, but then 3 months later I was like, why did I choose that? I don't even remember what it's about. So yeah, this year I wanted to actually put more consideration into choosing the books that I want to read the most. So literally the first book that I thought about, and I'm getting straight into it, the first book that I thought about was Boy Parts by Eliza Clark. I think I actually mentioned it in my end of year goals. I have a video that I posted in December, I think, about my end of year goals. So those were like the books I wanted to read before the end of the year. I'll link it up below. Up below. I'm not okay. I'll link it anyway. But I obviously ended up not reading that book in 2022. But yeah, this is one of those books that I was mentioning earlier that I've been wanting to read for a few years. And I actually started reading this, I think 2 years ago, or maybe it was last year. Honestly, my memory isn't great. But I started reading it and I loved it, but for some reason I just never continued. And this just sounds right up my alley, and I remember when I started reading it, I loved the writing style as well, and I was really engaged. Like in the story, I was really, you know, curious about what was gonna happen, and the character, I liked her voice. So I just randomly stopped reading it, and I have it on my Kindle, so like I need to continue reading it. Or well, I guess I'll start from the beginning now, but yeah. So Boy Parts is about this woman who, let me search. Oh my god. Yeah. I'm not good with synopses. I think we've already established that. So Boy Parts is about Irina, I think that's how you say her name, who takes photos. She's a photographer. I think that's what she went to university for, maybe. But she's a photographer and she likes to take explicit photographs of average looking men she persuades to model for her. This is set in the UK, in Newcastle. Basically, she works as a bartender, I think, but then she is asked to send in some of her photographs, some of her work, to be shown in a gallery, and this is gonna like revive her career. And basically, I think if I remember correctly, I'm looking at Goodreads, but it's too long and I can't be bothered. So she starts to take more pictures of men, and I think it like progressively gets worse and worse, in the sense that she asks them to do more and more like embarrassing photos and like even dangerous, maybe even like harmful to them. But she's a beautiful woman, and basically all these men find it pretty much impossible to say no to her. And I remember reading somewhere like back in the day, I don't know, a few years ago, that was basically about how she is annoyed how those men never felt in danger because she's beautiful and because she's a woman. Of course, sirens are going off at all times of the day. But yeah, she finds it annoying that these men like don't find her scary, basically. And so I think that's why it progressively gets worse, and like she keeps asking them to pose in more and more like dangerous ways, I guess. And it is considered a horror book, so you know. I'm hoping that it gets gory, not gonna lie. I hope it goes hard on that, but yeah, I don't know if it actually will. To be honest, I think I'll be fine either way, but I would like it to be, you know, like, I don't know, I just want something very like horror-ish out of it. But yeah, I'm really excited about it. Also, I remember, I don't know if it was the author herself on Instagram, but I think she mentioned how she was inspired by female characters in some anime where they're super hot but super powerful, but like they're never taken as seriously as their male counterparts. And I don't know if I imagined this because this is one of my favorite anime, but I feel like she mentioned Urza from Fairy Tail. But I don't know. Maybe I'm imagining it. But anyway, next book, The Pisces by Melissa Broder. I'm a Pisces, fun fact. Yeah, my birthday's on March 3rd, so you know, I'm a Pisces baby. That's not why I picked up this book. Again, this is one of those books, like I mentioned, that I've been wanting to read for a few years. I heard it's super weird. I heard it's like basically about this woman who ends up like developing a relationship with this merman. Yeah, I mean, that already sounds really fucking weird. I know there's like, they have intercourse. However, I don't even want to think about that. Like, how do they even do that? He's a merman, but whatever. Either way, it sounds fascinating. Like the way that I heard people talk about it, I'm just like really intrigued. Also, a lot of people that tend to like weird books have liked this book, which is promising for me because I do like weird books most of the time. I really think it's gonna be a 5-star, and I'll be really heartbroken if it isn't, not gonna lie. But I definitely want to read more of her books either way. I have Milk Fed that is also on my radar, and I heard just in general that she's a really good writer, so like I'm just really looking forward to it. And it is a contemporary book technically, and it's considered magical realism and also maybe romance. I mean, like I said, it's like this relationship between a woman and a merman. I don't know if that's supposed to be a metaphor for something. I'll let you know once I read it. Also, the cover is so beautiful, and that's, not gonna lie, like a huge reason why I wanted to pick it up to begin with, so there's that. Same with Boy Parts, I just love those covers. Next, this is another book that I've been wanting to read for a few years, Hurricane Season by Fernanda Melchor. And she's a Mexican writer, so this is translated from Spanish. And again, this is another horror book, and I heard it's like really, like, it either deals with like heavy topics and they're a part of the horror elements, or it's just like a really heavy read. And I think in general her books tend to be like that. Another book that I really want to read by her is Paradise, and that's also like really heavy subject matter and just a really heavy read apparently. So yeah, she tends to write horror books, I think. These are the two books I heard of by her, and then there's one actually coming out this year that I'm looking forward to, and that will be another video, my anticipated releases. But that one is actually more of a autofiction or actual memoir, I can't remember. So it's obviously not horror. But yeah, anyway, so Hurricane Season, I don't even remember what exactly it's about. So I'm just gonna read part of the Goodreads synopsis. It says, Hurricane Season takes place in a world filled with mythology and violence. Real violence, the kind that seeps into the soil, poisoning everything around. It's a world that becomes more terrifying and more terrifyingly real the deeper you explore it. That sounds really interesting. Honestly, I just heard great things about her writing style and her books, like both of them. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading it. I'm hoping that I'll love it. Next, we're staying in the horror genre. and I want to read Lapvona by Ottessa Moshfegh. This isn't surprising at all, considering my favorite book from last year is an Ottessa Moshfegh book, and that would be My Year of Rest and Relaxation. I just loved it. It's the most memorable book I read last year, and it's just one of those books that stays with you, and yeah, I just love it. I also read Death in Our Hands. I think I've talked about it on my channel. And I liked it. I gave it 3 stars. Honestly, I'm torn because like it's kind of like between a 3 and a 4 stars, I guess. It's a really interesting book. I don't know. I wonder if I were to reread it, if I would enjoy it more. But anyway, I am like trying to read all of Ottessa Moshfegh's books, and Lapvona was actually one of my anticipated releases from last year, but I prefer paperbacks over hardbacks, so I haven't bought the book yet, because I really want the paperback version, which is not out yet. But anyway, no one asked. The point is, I want to read it. I'm really looking forward to it. It's a horror set in a historical context that's completely made up, I think. It might be based on like the UK's history, maybe, question mark. But yeah, it's like set in a, I don't know if it's a fantasy world or if it's just like a made-up historical context. In a village in a medieval... What the fuck is that? Fiefdom? How the fuck do you even see it? I have never seen that word before in my life.
Fiefdom.
Fiefdom. In a village in a medieval fiefdom buffeted by natural disasters, a motherless shepherd boy... A motherless shepherd boy finds himself the unlikely pivot of a power struggle that puts all manner of faith to a savage test, in a spellbinding novel that represents Ottessa Moshfegh's most exciting leap yet. So I remember someone mentioning how, unlike her other books, this is written in third person, I think. Which is, again, it's like different from all her other novels, and in general, this is like her most different novel compared to all the other ones she's written. So I'm really, really excited, just in general, because I love her writing style and just her mind, like the things she comes up with, and also she's just really funny. So I'm curious to see how that's gonna play out in this book, considering it is darker than the other ones. But I think there's still gonna be some sense of humor, because she just has a good sense of humor, in my opinion. She's got that like dark sense of humor that I just love. I'm really looking forward to this. So yeah, that's Lapvona. Then another book that I would love to read, and I actually bought the physical version, the physical copy, like in December, like I think a few days before I ended up leaving, is Severance by Ling Ma. I have read her other book, which is a series of short stories called Bliss Montage, and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars, which is why I decided that I would definitely buy the physical version, the physical copy of Severance, even though basically, again, this is one of those books that I've been wanting to read for a few years, but I told myself I would try to find the audiobook either on Scribd or from my library, because I just wasn't sure, since it's like, it's sci-fi, like dystopian sci-fi, but it's also satire, which is what makes it appealing to me. But still, sci-fi is not my favorite genre, so I was just like unsure of whether I wanted the physical copy. But then after reading her other book, I was just like, absolutely, I need it, because her writing style is just chef's kiss. And also, again, like, I just really liked her sense of humor and the way she talked about different topics within all of her short stories. It was just great. So I think that would be a really great read. And also, I know that there's a TV show that's already come out, I think, so that's interesting. I actually didn't know they were making it into a TV show, but that makes me want to read it even more, so that I can then watch the TV show if I like it. But yeah, so Severance is about this woman who is so busy with work, she doesn't realize that an apocalypse is happening until, I think, zombies like barge into her office or something like that. And like I said, it's satire, so it's, you know, it's like making fun of like all those tropes, but also talking about work culture and probably capitalism, I don't know. Yeah, but it sounds really interesting. So then we have another book that I actually do own, and this is Acts of Desperation by Megan Nolan, and this is considered a sad girl book. So it's right up my alley. I'm really excited about it. I think they were kind of like advertising it as an an anti-romance book because it's about this woman who is in a toxic relationship, or maybe she gets out of a toxic relationship, and then honestly there's certain books where like you know you're just gonna love them, so you don't even need to know the synopsis. Yeah, so she gets into a sort of relationship with a man who then rejects her, and that kind of sends her, what is it saying here? Sending her into a tailspin of jealous obsession and longing. If he ever comes back to her, she resolves to hang on to him and his love at all costs, even if it destroys her. Damn. But yeah, so it's about like a really toxic relationship. It sounds amazing. I heard a lot of people say good things about it, so I'm interested. And yeah, like I said, I already bought the book. I don't have it with me, so I will either wait until I'm back home to read it, or if I find like the audiobook or ebook on Scribd or my library, then I might do that. Something else that I was more mindful of this year when choosing the books that I wanted to read was to actually choose books from my favorite authors. And so you'll see that there's like several books that are written by my favorite authors. So this next one is one of them. I Used to Be Charming, the rest of Eve Babbitt's. This is actually her most recent book that has come out. It was published in 2019, and like the title implies, it's basically, I think, like a compilation of her short stories that were either never published, or maybe they were published like in magazines but not as a like book. And then I think there's also maybe some additions by Eve Babbitt's. But yeah, she obviously passed away, unfortunately, last year. But yeah, Eve Babbitt's, love her books. Like literally I've given all of them 5 stars, I think. The only exception I think was Sex and Rage that I gave like 4.5, but obviously I still really loved it. I think I own all of her fiction books now. I do have I Used to Be Charming, but again, it's at home. I don't have it with me. But whether I'll read it when I'm back home or whether I find another way of reading it, we'll see. But yeah, definitely we'll get to it eventually. Another author that's been compared to, or that Eve Babbitt has been compared to, is Joan Didion, and surprisingly I actually haven't read any Joan Didion. So I want to start with The White Album, which is I think her most talked about novel. I might be wrong, but I feel like I've heard a lot of people talking about it and saying great things about it, so I'm just gonna start with that one, and then I will definitely be reading a lot more Joan Didion throughout the year. Like I just want to. It's about time. Again, I think it's just like short stories set in San Francisco. I'm not sure if it's non-fiction or if it's fiction, to be honest, but I know it's like about San Francisco or LA. I can't remember. I think she was set in San Francisco, so I'm guessing it's San Francisco, but don't quote me on that. Then another book by one of my favorite authors, Coventry by Rachel Cusk. I have owned this book for like many years now, and I still haven't read it. I was debating between this one and Saving Agnes, because I also have that one, but I bought Saving Agnes after Coventry. Literally, I think I bought it last year, whereas Coventry, like I said, I've owned for a while. So this is a collection of essays by Rachel Cusk, and like I said, she's one of my favorite authors. I've loved both her fiction and nonfiction, so again, I think it's gonna be a 5-star. I'll be surprised if it isn't, but you know, anyway, like even if it ends up not being a 5-star, I feel like I will still enjoy it just because of the way she writes. And then there's another book that's considered like sad girl book, and that's The Virgin Suicides by Jeffrey Eugenides. I don't know how to say his name. Eugenides? Yeah, whatever. Him. I think we all know about this book or the movie. I remember like watching the movie many years ago. I think I was like in high school, maybe even middle school. Yeah, I don't think it really needs an introduction, but it's basically this book written in first person plural, so we, I think, because it's written from the perspective of this group of boys who were obsessed with this group of girls who are all sisters. I forget their names, like their family name, but these girls come from a very religious and very strict family. Like their parents are incredibly strict, and they all end up taking their own lives, and it's about this group of boys kind of like watching them and like I think reminiscing on who they were. I don't know if the reminiscing part is like from the movie or if that's how it's written in the book as well, but yeah, it's basically about those girls but from their perspective of the boys. So yeah, it just sounds really interesting and I'm curious to see how I'm gonna like it, especially because in a way we're getting the male gaze but we're aware of it and we know that like the characters are kind of unreliable narrators if that makes sense. They're boys looking at these girls and kind of like idolizing them and not really seeing them as actual people. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah. Anyway, I also bought that book as well, so hopefully I love it because I already bought it. So then, yes, so this is a bit out of left field compared to everything else, but The Foxhole Court by Nora Sakavic, I think that's how you say her name. This is an old like booktube love, I think. I know that series is like really loved on booktube and I think the books were really popular a few years ago. And honestly, when I first started watching booktube, I heard several people talk about them. And so I've been curious ever since about them. I've also heard some like criticism of these books, so I don't know. I'm just really curious. Basically, there was the Kindle version of the first book for free on Amazon. So I just got it. And so I was like, okay, well, might as well read it. And then just to kind of like give myself motivation to read it, I decided to put it on this list because like I'm just curious. I think it's about like this group of boys who like play a sport. I don't know which sport. I think it's hockey, but not ice hockey. I think it's just like hockey on grass. Honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of like sports, anything. Like I don't want to read about sports. I don't care. So I don't know. I hope it's not a big part of the book. If it is, but yeah, I don't know. I heard that like it's worth it, but I also heard a lot of people say that the first book isn't the best, so I don't know. Also, I haven't had the best luck with like free Kindle books, so I don't know. I don't know how I'm gonna feel about it. Might be a 1-star, might be a 5-star, who knows. But yeah, and I think it's like gay, which is like the only positive thing about it, because I swear to God, if I have to read about sports and there's nothing going on, no. Then we have another book that was an unanticipated release for me from last year, House of Hunger by Alexis Henderson. Maybe I'll read it in like October, but also we're maybe, hopefully, getting the sequel to The Year of the Witching this year, so it'd be really cool to read both of them. But yeah, I don't know, because there's no date that's been announced yet. It just says 2023, but like that could change. So yeah, I'm hoping that we do get the sequel, and in that case I definitely want to reread The Year of the Witching, and I would love to read that in October. But again, I don't even know if the sequel is coming out. But either way, I want to read House of Hunger, which is not related to The Year of the Witching, but because I loved The Year of the Witching, I'm really looking forward to this one, and I think I'll love it. It's about vampires. I think it's set in the south of the US, maybe. I don't know much more than that, and I don't want to know much more than that. Then we have The Idiot by Elif Batuman, and this is the favorite book of a YouTuber that I love. And I love this YouTuber's recommendations, and in fact I think there's 1 or 2 other books that I mentioned that were also recommended by her, and that's Mauve ASMR. So yeah, she's an ASMR artist, but she does a lot of like book content on her channel. So she mentioned Hurricane Season and Paradise. This is, I think, her favorite book, but definitely like one of her favorite books. I think even before I heard her mention it, like I think it was already on my radar because of, first off, the name and the cover, but also like I just heard great things about it. It's about like a university student, and I think it's her first year in university, if I'm not mistaken. And then once I read that, I would also love to read the sequel, which is called Either Or, and I think that one is like in her second year of university. It's a contemporary book. I did hear a lot of negative reviews about it as well, so I'm kind of like anxious because I'm like, I want to love it, but I don't know if I will. But I heard a lot of people say that it was like boring, or I don't know, but I tend to love boring books, so once again, maybe I'll love it. I think it's set in the 90s, like late 90s, early 2000s, when computers are starting to be a thing, or like they're relatively new, and I think it's about her corresponding online via emails with this guy who's maybe a senior in her university, and like she's really into him, but he's not super interested in her, I think, or he's just kind of like an asshole. And it's about her figuring that relationship out, and it's about her just, you know, being, I think, at Harvard, like I think it's like an Ivy League school, and her just like trying to navigate the world of university basically, and of early adulthood. And then another book that I've been wanting to read for a few years, Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit by Jeanette Winterson. This is, I think this might be autofiction, but I'm not 100% certain, but I know it's like a lesbian book basically. It's about the protagonist figuring out that she's not into boys, I think. I can't remember. Like, I think I came across it when I was searching another book, and then this was like linked to it or something. I don't know. The second thing that attracted me to the book is the cover, because it's gorgeous. This is the story of Jeanette, adopted and brought up by her mother as one of God's elect. Zealous and passionate, she seems destined for life as a missionary, but then she falls for one of her converts. At 16, Jeanette decides to leave the church, her home, and her family for the young woman she loves. Innovative, punchy, and tender, Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit is a few days' ride into the bizarre outposts of religious excess and human obsession. Very interesting. Can't wait to read it. Then we have An Unquiet Mind by Kay Redfield Jamieson. This is a memoir about, it literally said it on the cover, wait. A memoir of moods and madness. So basically she was a doctor or studying to be a doctor, I can't remember, but she basically finds out that she has bipolar disorder, and it's about her living with that. And I remember coming across quotes from this book on Tumblr, and I remember when I saw those quotes, I just related so much to them. I don't have bipolar disorder, but yeah, I related to the quotes, and right away I was like, I need to know where this is from. And then once I realized it was a book, I was like, okay, gotta read it. Again, I've been wanting to read it for a few years. I still haven't. This is the year, okay? 2023 is the year that I'll be reading all these books that have been on my list for so long. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's her memoir. In general, I would highly suggest looking up quotes from this book, because honestly, like, so good. Okay, then I also want to read Feminist Theory by Bell Hooks. To be honest, I was going back and forth between different Bell Hooks books. That rhymes. Except I know her most famous book is All About Love, but that's actually the one that I'm least interested in, ironically. But yeah, I wanted to either go with Feminist Theory or Everyone Should Be a Feminist. Is that what it's called? But yeah, so I ended up deciding to go with this one. Bell Hooks is another author that I really want to read more from. Like, I can't believe that I haven't read any of her books yet. Just like Joan Didion, it's like they're both authors that I've been wanting to read from for so long, and I just haven't. So again, this is the year 2023. Let's do it. So yeah, this is obviously nonfiction, and it's about feminism. And I'm so interested in like reading her books, because it's like, I know I'll be learning something for sure. Another book that I really want to get to is Terminal Boredom by Izumi Suzuki. This is a collection of short stories. It is sci-fi, which I've mentioned earlier. I don't like sci-fi, like, at all, but I think it's been defined as like genre defying. Maybe I'm just remembering it wrong. But also just in general, I heard about her backstory, like her life's story, and it was just so fucking interesting. I just had to pick up the book, to be honest. I think she was someone who had a lot to say when it comes to like being a woman in society and society itself, stereotypes, stuff like that. I think she has a lot to say, or well, she had a lot to say. Based on some reviews and some comments I've seen, it's like she really put her all in this book, and then she ended up taking her own life as soon as she was done writing this book. So it's, yeah, it's just a really interesting backstory, really sad obviously, but I'm just really curious, because I mean, at the end of the day, there's always something about the author in their books, in my opinion. I just really want to read it. Then we have one of my anticipated releases for this year, and it's Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. I fucking love R.F. Kuang. I will read anything that she comes out with, like literally anything at all. I loved all of her books. I've given all of her books 5 stars. Need I say more? I don't think so. So Yellowface is about this author who's white and this other author who's Chinese, I think. And basically she dies, but this is after she's written like this really beautiful, mesmerizing novel. From what I remember, it's like she wrote like an amazing novel that is based on Chinese history, maybe, or is that like set in China? I can't remember. So the white author is the one who ends up finding the manuscript, as well as maybe her dead body, I can't remember. But either way, she ends up pretending to be Chinese as well. Or I don't know if she ends up pretending to be that woman, or if she just pretends to be Chinese and she's like writing under like a pseudonym or something. I can't remember exactly. But basically she steals the manuscript and pretends to be the one who wrote it because it's beautiful. And like I think she was like failing as an author, like nobody was interested in what she has to write. And so I think she starts to get like more interviews and stuff like that, and she has to pretend to be of a different race. I think it's considered like a mystery. Yeah, mystery, literary fiction, contemporary. So yeah, honestly, R.F. Kuang is so intelligent. Like in all of her books, you can tell she understands like so much. Oh my god. Tell me you're stupid without telling me you're stupid. But yeah, she's such an intelligent person. Like I just want to read anything she writes. I already said it and I'll say it again. Obviously there's gonna be a lot of commentary on like racism, stereotypes, I'm guessing. A lot of good things basically. Honestly, I can't. My brain isn't connected. But you get the gist. Another anticipated release, The Stolen Heir by Ollie Black. This is already out. This is like a spin-off series from The Folk of Heir by Ollie Black, which is The Cruel Prince and all those books. The Folk of Heir series is one of my all-time favorite series. I just love it. So I was really excited when I found out she was writing the spin-off duology, and it's gonna be following Judas? Oh, it's gonna be following Jude's younger brother. I forget his name, but it's him when he's a bit older, I think. And I think it's like the love story between him and, I think her name is Suren. They're both grown up now, and I think it's about their relationship. So yeah, that's all I need to know. Honestly, as soon as I heard there was a spin-off, I was like, yep, I'm all in. I'm gonna read it and I'm gonna love it, hopefully. If I don't love it, I'm gonna be really fucking sad, but whatever, because I can still reread The Folk of Heir. So I'm still gonna be happy either way. And I think we do get a cameo of like Jude and Carden, so yes. Anyway, next, another book I want to read is called Double Blind by Edward St. Aubin. Again, I bought this last year. I think it was released in 2022. It's about these three friends, and I think two of them might be dating, I can remember. But it's two girls, one guy, and they're either like really smart, or like one of them is like super smart and like interested in biology and like animals, specifically insects, I think. And I think they go on a road trip. Honestly, I can't remember anything from the synopsis, but I love the cover. And I don't know, it's one of those books that, I don't know if it's because I own it, but like every time I would look at it, I would be like, I need to read you. I'm really interested, and I heard like mixed reviews. Actually, that's a lie. I think I've only heard bad reviews. Like I think I've heard people say it's boring, or like, I don't know, just like 3 stars and less. So I'm interested. I don't know why I think I might love it. Maybe it's the butterflies, because like butterflies are just so beautiful that if they're on a cover, I'm like, okay, I love that book. There's actually another book that I'm gonna mention later that's also got butterflies on the cover, and it looks gorgeous. But anyway, then I put on my list a book that was actually part of my top 22 of 2022 books, and that is I Had That Same Dream Again by Yoru Sumino. I wasn't able to read it in 2022, but I'm still super interested in that book, and I think I've mentioned it before, but I actually picked it up because it was recommended for like Pisces by Katie Flowers. It's about this girl who, I think she's doing like a project for her class. I think she's like in elementary school, and she ends up interviewing, I think 3 different women of different ages, and I think they're all struggling somehow, like either it's depression or just like old age, one of them, and a struggling mother maybe. I can't remember exactly, but it was about like women and women suffering, I guess. We're down to the last 2 books. Then I have Mouthful of Birds. Oops. Then I have Mouthful of Birds by Samantha Schweblin. I don't want to say something stupid, but I think she's from Argentina. Mouthful of Birds is actually a collection of stories. This is also horror, and magical realism. I have read Fever Dream by her and I really loved it. So yeah, I just want to read more from her, and like I said, the butterflies just look so beautiful. But yeah, I'm just trying to find more favorite authors, so she might end up becoming one of my favorite authors. And honestly, I don't even know what the stories are about. I just know that she, like, everything she writes is like super weird. Fever Dream was really weird as well. I know a lot of people don't like that book, but honestly, so good. It really felt like a fever dream. And then last but not least, we have a classic, Emma by Jane Austen. Ever since I started doing these like top 20 of 2020 and stuff like that, all of these lists, ever since I started with them, I have included a Jane Austen novel, and I have given 5 stars to pretty much all of them, I think. I think maybe one of them was like a 4.5, but still. I've loved all of Jane Austen's books, and Emma, I think, is like the one of the last few remaining. I also have Sense and Sensibility that I still have to read, but I think after these 2, I'll be done with Jane Austen. Don't quote me on that, but yeah. So anyway, I loved Emma growing up, but I especially loved the 2019 version. I don't know, the one with Anya Taylor-Joy, love of my life. I love her so much. That version of Emma is so good. It is the supreme movie. Like, so good. Honestly, maybe one of my favorite Jane Austen movies. Well, like, you know, movies based on Jane Austen's books. Just so good. It's so good. But yeah, so I'm thinking it's gonna be a 5-star. I know that the love interest, Mr. Knightley, I know he's not as lovable in the book, because I heard comments from like the director and how they changed certain things in the movie. And yeah, anyway, I don't know. Either way, I'm excited and I think I'll love it because I just love that story. So yeah, that's it. Those were my top 23 books of 2023. I hope I didn't forget to mention any of them. I can check actually. That's it. I'll definitely be trying to film a lot more frequently. I don't know how that's gonna go, because knowing me, it's probably not gonna work out. But yeah, I'll try my best. Peace.